Welcome to A Woman's Heart. I am sure we are in for a treat. We've already had a lovely conversation, but we have Lynn Jackson with us today. Thanks so much for joining us today, Lynn.
Lisa, thank you for having me. It is a joy. It is an absolute joy.
Yes, well, and I am looking forward to our conversation. I believe it is going to be warm and real and very helpful. And I'm counting on you to give us some really practical stuff here. So, no
Mm,
pressure.
No, I love it. I love practical. I love real life and love to share. So,
Yes. Well, and along those lines, I did tell you I love for my audience to get to know my guest a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself and something fun that isn't normally in your bio.
okay, something fun that's not in my bio. I'll have to think about that for a second.
Okay.
Um, but right now, my husband and I just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations. It's a
Yeah,
big
and
milestone.
40 years of being in ministry. So, yeah,
Wow.
we started ministry 3 days after our honeymoon.
Oh my goodness. Yes. So you've
Yeah,
been in ministry the whole time you've been married.
the whole time. Yep, yep. And we're gonna keep going, it's just
Yes.
see what God has for the next thing. And
Okay.
God had blessed us with 4 children. So we have 4 adult children,
Hmm.
3 married-ins, and 8 grandchildren.
Oh.
And this is a lovely part. We all live within an hour of each other.
Oh, wow. That is a blessing. That
Yeah,
is a
it has
huge
been.
blessing. Yes.
It's
We have
beautiful, beautiful.
how
So,
lucky and blessed.
yes. So we were in the pastorate for 22 years, and then for 12 years we took churches on short-term mission trips in and out of country, and then we started a ministry to people who are in ministry. It's called Thrive Leadership Foundation.
Okay.
And so we minister to those who are on full-time ministry. And I've just started reaching out to gentle warriors who are women who do things like you do.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And women who are in ministry. And yeah, so God's unfolding that. Not quite sure how that's going to look, but it's a tiny little branch that's growing
Yeah.
off of Thrive. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds lovely. And what's something fun that isn't normally?
I had to think about that one because I'm kind of like I Love Lucy. If you follow me around long enough, we'll be laughing together. But I did think about my childhood, and I'm one of 7. And I think of Pippi Longstockings. I grew up like Pippi Longstockings, where
Oh,
my brother actually rode a horse into the kitchen.
oh my
And we used
goodness.
to have a squirrel monkey that was about 12 inches tall who slept with me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, and hopefully some people I get the reference to Pippi Longstocking. I was like, okay, I actually get that. Well, that does sound fun and very interesting. I hope the horse didn't hang out in the kitchen too long and mess up anything.
Nope, nope. My mom shooed him out, and
Okay, well,
yeah.
good. Very good. Oh, oh my goodness. Well, Lynn, is there something that you are really hoping throughout our conversation that the person listening, what are you hoping that they're going to take away from our conversation today?
Well, like I said, we've been in ministry for 40 years, and the people that God continues to put in front of me are women who are weary, they're worn out, they're committed Christian women,
Hmm.
but they are battle weary and worn out and too weary to open their Bible.
Mm.
And that is the book that I was able to release in May. And so that's the audience that I really hope that we can speak to today, the women who are listening, to bring encouragement to them. I, my heart's desire is for them to know that God is present. He's not only present, but he's active,
Mhm.
and he's present in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
and the book that you released is called The Recipe, which I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you about that in a little bit. But to follow up on what you were talking about, that was one of the things that I had marked is you talk about shell Christianity.
Mhm.
What do you mean by that, by the shell Christianity?
Like I said, my husband and I, we've ministered out of country as well, and you see it out of country, but I see it a lot in our country,
Hmm.
and it's where Christians and we're committed to Christ, but it's like we live in this shell of I should be reading my Bible. I should be going to church. I should go visit my neighbor. I should share the gospel. And it becomes a shell of Christianity, and there is no real life. There's no real joy. It's just you're living in this empty shell, and
Mhm.
it's not rewarding. And
Yeah.
you, I see women walking around with just, where is the joy? They're
Yeah.
doing all the right things, but it's like an empty shell.
Yeah, well, and the word empty is what kind of came up to me. Is I think of when I'm look walking along a beach and I'm picking up a seashell. It
Mhm,
the organism inside, whatever creature used to be inside that shell is gone, and so the shell is empty.
mhm,
And I think of like a shell of something is it may look good on the outside, but
mhm,
it's empty on the
mhm,
inside.
mhm,
And one of the things that struck me when you talked about that was, yeah, there's committed,
mhm,
but there's that deeper intimate, that joy, the
mhm,
intimacy that can sometimes be lacking.
mhm,
With all of the tradition and the shoulds and the
mhm,
rules and all the doing, that
mhm,
it is very easy to get caught up in that and then lose that really looking to him as the source to work from
mhm, mhm,
and use his strength to do
mhm,
ministry, which it's so easy to end up doing it all in your own strength. And then you end up being drained
mhm,
and just like you said,
mhm.
weary. Uh,
Weary,
you've
very
got that.
weary.
Yeah.
And if we let it go long enough, we become disillusioned with God.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
where are you? Where
Yeah.
are you? I'm doing all the right things. But, if you think about it, if you pick up that shell and if you put it really close to your ear, you will hear the ocean.
Hmm.
And it's the same, like if a listener feels like I am just a shell of Christianity, there's nothing real in there. If you can come close and pick up the word of God, you will hear his voice, and it will bring life. It
Hmm.
will bring that joy back.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that I had marked, you put a quote in there by Eugene Peterson. And in
Mhm,
summarizing Job, it talked about how God eclipses the suffering because sometimes it can just kind of be life slowly draining you out a little bit at a time, or
mhm,
sometimes it can be a bigger crisis, a trauma, a suffering, whether it be chronic pain, loss, grief, or whatever that really just kind of sucks everything out. And you're just like, wait a minute here, God, this really, really hurts. And it's
mhm,
hard. It's very
mhm,
difficult in those seasons to really feel like God is there, I guess the feels. But there was a point in your own life where that really came about. So
mhm.
why did that stand out to you and how did that play out in your own life?
I loved that quote, and I held on to that for months,
Hmm.
for months, because I'm not a real science person. But when the moon, is it the moon that eclipses this? No, the sun eclipses the
It
moon.
can go either way, whether it's a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There was a reason for my confusion. But the one that gets eclipsed, let's say the moon gets eclipsed, it doesn't mean it's not there.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
still there. So our pain and our suffering does not go away. But when we get into the Word of God, and we recognize his presence, that he is real, that he does hear us, that he is moving in our lives, that in a sense eclipses the suffering to where we can see him, but our
Mhm.
pain is still there. So the eclipse doesn't deny the pain.
Yeah.
And I think as Christians we can beat ourselves up with, I shouldn't be hurting this deeply. Yes, you should. It
Yeah.
stinks. It's awful.
Hmm.
Whatever it is that is that painful is very real. And when we can find a way, like I use the recipe, it helped me to lament and to go before God. I reference our daughter who struggles with chronic pain. She has had lupus since she was 16. And to watch your baby struggle,
Oh, yeah, that's the worst.
I
Well,
would rather
yeah, that's one of
struggle.
the
Any
worst.
mother would rather struggle
Yeah.
than to watch their baby,
Hmm.
no matter how old the baby is.
Yeah.
And so when I used the recipe, it allowed me to say, God, I hate this for her.
Hmm.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it
Yeah.
because it was that painful. It didn't go away, but for me to be able to say that to him and then to see his word say back to me, and I take no pleasure in evil. In other words, I hate it too.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the word can eclipse. It can just, the pain is still there, but you get to see God in the midst of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I like the way that you put that. And you talked about when you use the recipe. So your book is called The Recipe,
Hmm.
Food for Your Soul. And what is that recipe that you are talking about? And I loved all the food references. You did a wonderful job of just weaving that food cooking recipe thing all throughout the book. So I love that. But
Oh.
when you talk about the recipe, what is it?
Well, I was thinking about before we got on today, I was like, when you have a yummy recipe, you share it with your neighbor
Hmm.
or, with a family member. It's like, it
Yeah.
is so easy. Here's the ingredients. I'm telling you, just try this recipe and take a bite. You are going to love it. And then if it's that good, share it with somebody else.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is what we're doing on the podcast. This is a way
Yeah.
to go, what a great way to share across the fence. But how many fences you have, Lisa, that we're, reaching across and sharing this yummy recipe with? But the recipe it's a very simple method for women who are too weary to open their Bible. I'm a precept girl. I'm a navigator's girl. I love the commentaries. I love original languages. But, when we get into using things like that, we're making a Thanksgiving meal. We have time to make a huge meal. But
Yeah.
in our everydayness, when we are weary,
Hmm.
we need to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
So this is a way to make food for your soul that's going to bring the protein, the sweet, and the savory, and just enough for the day.
Yeah.
It's just enough. And this recipe is for women who have never been able to establish a way to get into the word on a daily basis. This just hasn't been able to happen for them. Or if a crisis hits and your quiet time gets hijacked, this is a simple way. Make a peanut
Mm.
butter and jelly sandwich, have the strength to walk through that crisis.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're between group Bible studies that you like to do, or you're just too busy. You can exegete with the best of them, but you just don't have time.
Yeah.
So that's what the recipe is for, but mostly for women who are just too weary to open the word. And it's just a simple method that for women who are too weary, I encourage them to stay in the Psalms. Just stay in the Psalms. I stayed there for 5 years when my
Wow.
daughter was really at just struggling so deeply. And I would say to my seminary husband, I got to be a big girl and get out of the Psalms. And he was like, Lynn, that's where God's meeting you. Just stay there.
Hmm.
Just stay there. So if you are weary and you can't open the Bible, I encourage you just get in the Psalms, maybe start at Psalm 57. And it's just a way to like I call the Bible God's pantry.
Hmm.
And it's full of food for your soul. And
Yeah.
the verses are just stocked with nutrition that you need, spices, sweets, and it's just a way to hand pick out some food and to just
Yeah.
nibble for the day.
Hmm.
Just take a little nibble, because if you're malnourished, you don't eat a steak to
No.
get better.
No, you're certainly not going to need a 20-ounce ribeye.
No, no. But you maybe a cracker. You
Hmm.
nibble on a cracker
Yeah.
or a teaspoon of water every hour until you can eat a cracker. So that's what the recipe is. It's just a way to nibble on the Word of God, just little by little. And I encourage women never to do more than 4 verses a day,
Yeah.
which I know
Yeah.
that
I
sounds
thought it
so
was
anemic.
no, but it doesn't. And I started working through some of them, and it is you encourage somebody to read like a whole psalm. So when you say Psalm 57, you read through the whole thing, but then you pick out one, two. maybe four verses, and
Mhm.
that's all. And then you kind of break them down. And I thought it was interesting where it was very important. You stressed several times to change some of the phrases into the present tense.
Yes,
What does that do?
that is huge. That changed my prayer life. That totally changed my prayer life because what's our prayer life? God, make it stop. God, take it away. God, give me more.
Yeah.
We pray it for ourselves and we pray it for others. That's our prayer life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I am doing using the recipe, anything that I find out about God, I put in the present tense, and it's what He's capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I should just look at my one this morning. I did Psalm 28, and it talks about how Psalm 40 is a great one. He turns, paraphrase Lynn Jackson. I should look this up. Psalm 40. I call out to him, and he turned toward me. So I
Mm-hmm.
would put turns
Yeah.
in God's column because he heard my voice and then he turned toward me.
Yeah.
Okay, so put it in present tense, turns toward me.
Yeah.
And so I would put that in the God column. And so anything that the psalm would describe of God, I would put in the God column and put it in present tense. And then when I go back after I dig, and I would do all four verses,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I go back and I start to pray, God, you hear my voice and you turn toward me? Like,
Yeah.
really? Do I really have your attention? And it helps you have conversation with God. It gives
Mm-hmm.
you food for thought,
Yes.
food for conversation. It gives you things to talk to God about. God, I don't feel like you turn toward me. God, do you really hear me? And it taught me to pray differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that you have like the personal column and the God column and the enemy column, and you kind of break up the verses and put it into the present tense, and then you have a little bit of time to pray about that.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that you really stressed that kind of stood out, and I've done it for the last 2 days, is set a timer for 2 minutes and just sit and be quiet and just
Yes,
listen.
yes.
What kind of a difference does that make?
That you have to experience that.
Mm,
You have to experience that because when you spend time in God's Word and you take your time and you think about the that He is present, that He does turn toward you, that He does hear you,
hmm.
that that's encouraging and
Yeah.
that strengthens your spirit. It strengthens your spirit so that you can get through whatever it is that you're getting through for today, to realize that God is that present. So I encourage women to take a verse, to do exactly what you said. There's the me column, and that's anything that the believer, the author is writing about, the psalmist is writing about. Um, and then you know what, I should just turn to 57 just to use it as an example. Uh, Okay, so Psalm 57, have mercy on me, O God, have mercy on me. Now just pause right there. God has mercy on his people. So I would put in the God column mercy.
Mhm.
Mercy is kindness toward the offender.
Yes.
So that would be in the
Mhm.
God column. For in you my soul takes refuge. So in my column, the psalmist column, I would put takes refuge. And so that column I use as a mirror. Ooh, God, am I taking refuge in you? I don't know. What does refuge even mean? And that's the other part of the recipe is I have people use a Webster dictionary.
Mm.
Look up the word refuge.
Yes.
Um, and it just gives you, again, more to think about, more to chew on. So you use these columns, you pray, and when you run out of words, then you sit in silence. And I encourage women to try to come up with 1 to 2 words in that quiet time that kind of summarizes your conversation that you just had with God.
Hmm.
And I know I'm jumping around, but if we were using the Psalm 40, maybe the word turns would come to my mind. He turns toward me. I would write toward or turn take that as my word, and I write it on my hand, like
Yeah.
below my thumb. I write it on my hand, and I call that a protein bite.
Yep.
And so throughout the day, I'm folding laundry, and I see that word turns. I'm like, he does see me. And then I keep folding laundry. But
Yep.
it's just like if you were to have physically, you get tired during the day and you eat a scoop of peanut butter to get some energy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a spiritual protein bite that you get from
Yeah.
sitting in the quiet with God.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, well, and I like that because there are some times, as I mentioned beforehand, that I'm trying to read through the whole Bible in a
mhm,
year, which I think there's a lot of value in that, and
mhm,
he can use it. And at the same time, though, when you read 4 chapters, there's a lot in there, and so sometimes I'm like, okay, I did it, and Lord, thank you. And a couple of things may have stood out, but there's so many that stood out. It's kind of hard to take the one thing away from that. So I like that, just kind of boiling it all down to just, okay,
mhm,
there's a lot in here, but what's the one thing you
yeah,
want me to really take from this? And mine from this morning was in Second Corinthians, and it really was. It was kind of like a action, finish up,
yeah.
complete. Some of those words were the ones that were coming to me
Mm,
as I was sitting
mm,
there quietly. And one of the, when I first got the book, I just kind of scanned through real quick. I didn't read through. And the one thing that I went, oh, wait a minute. And I marked it immediately was there was a quote from a Chinese pastor, and we're talking about, all these little bites, but the quote was, "It's dangerous to learn truth faster than you can live it."
yes.
And in our world, I think it is. It's so easy to overeat. We can listen to a podcast on one verse. We can look at a YouTube video on something else. We can read a book on another topic. Then we go to church and we hear a sermon on this. We can consume so much information. There's like no way we can actually apply it. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I thought about in relation to this was I've heard Joyce Meyer preach. She said, frequently we are educated beyond our level of obedience.
Mm,
And so that danger of just consuming so much, but not having a time to really digest it, to keep with
hmm.
that recipe and food thing, to really digest it and apply it, I think that can somehow very easily lend to that shell Christianity. We've consumed so much, but we haven't really digested it. So it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other, or just kind of goes through and it doesn't really stick and it doesn't really change our lives. So how do we get to that point where we do slow down because there's always so much to do and so much to learn,
Yeah.
and so how would you encourage us to slow down and just digest it like with the recipe, just in little
Hmm.
bite-sized pieces, so that we
Hmm.
have the time to actually apply it and make it part of our lives?
Hmm. Well, I think there is value in reading the Bible in a year. I think there's value in reading chunks. And again, the women who I really want to hit are the ones who are too weary to open their Bible. Like
Mm.
you talk about reading the Bible in a year, you know what? Just shove me in a corner and close the door. You know, that is way too much. Like I don't even have the ability to overeat, or
Yeah.
we do overeat and we don't digest because when you think about food, when you're digesting, your body's breaking down and taking the nutrients that it needs to strengthen your body.
Hmm.
And so if we don't slow down, we're not absorbing the nutrients.
Yeah.
And we're anemic Christians, and a strong wind is going to blow us away
Mm.
because we need strength to do the life that God has called us to live. And
Yeah.
if we're not getting the correct food, we're not going to have the strength to do what's in front of us.
Hmm.
And part of that is to slow down. I think it was Walk Through the Bible. They had a survey, and they said people who encounter the word less than 4 times a week, their decisions in life don't look any different than non-believers.
Hmm.
Those who encounter the word 4 times or more, their decisions reflect God's qualities, God's, what would please God.
Yeah.
And so in the book, I encourage women to do the recipe at least 4 times a week. And
Okay.
to slow the way I slow down, especially in a weary state, I don't do more than 4 verses in a sitting.
Hmm.
And I try, that will slow me down. And it's like, oh, but I want to go further. It's like, no, just stop at 4.
Yeah.
Just stop at 4. Look up two or
Hmm.
three words in the Webster Dictionary, just so that you can slow down and really chew on what you just put in your mouth, what you
Yeah.
just put in your heart. And I
Hmm.
think just less is more.
Yeah. Well,
Less is more.
no. Yeah, less is more. And one of the things that I liked too, you pointed out to start with the God column when you're doing the writers or the psalmists in the God column. And it reminded me, Stephanie Roselle is the one that connected us. And
Mhm,
I remember her saying that when we go to the Bible and we look for ourselves in the Bible, that's all we're going to find. But
mhm,
if we go to the Bible and we are looking for God,
mhm,
and then that just opens up a whole new way. We learn about him, his character, his promises. We find out about ourselves. What we find out what we need, but we find out more about him when that's what we're really looking for. And I love how you pointed out to start with that God column and how important that is.
mhm. I have gotten to know God so much better by doing this recipe. And I've been a believer for 43 years.
Mm,
You know, and this has changed my prayer life. I've gotten to know God so much better for who he is, not
mhm.
from hearing about him from sermons, not from hearing about him from other people, but from the word. I found out what makes him angry. I found out what makes him sad. I found out what grieves him. I found out what makes him
Yeah.
brings him pleasure. Just the Psalms, just the Psalms. I
Mhm.
found out how much he battles for me because I've done the Psalms over. Like I said, I was in it for 5 years. I was a pastor's wife. I and missions. I didn't have the fortitude to do anymore. Life was too heavy. It was too sad. It was too hard. But my God walked so close to with me, 4 verses a day in the Psalms over and over and over and over and over again. And the one thing that I saw was having those 3 columns for Lynn, God, and the enemy. You know, sometimes we know the enemy's movement more than we know God's movement.
Yeah.
We know the enemy's schemes. They set net,
Hmm.
sets nets and traps and schemes and has sharp tongues. But what I saw over and over was that God made them stumble into their own traps. God, made them fall into their own nets. God blew them away like chaff. God was a consuming fire. He punishes the enemies. And you know what I'm to do in my column? God battles the enemies. I am to praise. I'm to call out. I'm to cry. I'm to rejoice. I'm to pray. I'm to sing. Wow, how freeing and encouraging is that? And that's in the Psalms. That's what you're going to find when you're so weary trying to battle the enemy. You find out
Yeah.
God battles the enemies, and then you start to see God's movement. He sends, He loves, He listens, He turns toward you, He carries you. You just see, and then you start to recognize His movement in your life
Hmm.
and realize He is present today because He's the same God, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and today. The book
Yeah.
of James says that he will never change. So what he did, in the Old Testament and the Psalms, he's doing today. He's
Yes,
doing
he
today.
is. Yes, he is. Well, Lynn, if there's one thing in listening to all this stuff about the recipe and all of the things that we have spoken about, if there is one thing that you would love for somebody to go, okay, I'm going to grab a hold of that, our little protein bite, and take away and actually apply from this conversation, what would you say that is?
My heart's desire is for them to realize that God is present and he is active.
Hmm. Okay.
He's not a deadbeat dad. He
No,
is
he's not.
so involved in our lives. He
Yes.
is so involved in our lives.
Yes.
Something that I don't know how much time we have.
You can take, it's
Okay,
okay.
this is a grandma story. It's a grandma
Okay.
story. So I'm out in the garden in the spring with our granddaughter Claire, and It's a hot day. We're getting the weeds out. She goes, Mimi, let's go sit under the shade tree. So we go sit under the shade tree, and then a breeze comes. And she throws her 5-year-old head back with these little platinum blonde curls. Mimi, I love the wind. And I'm like, oh, Claire, I love the wind. It makes me think of God. You can't see him, but you know he's moving.
Hmm.
And that has stayed with me. And this is what she said. Yes, Mimi, it's like you can smell the smell, but you can't see it. But that stuck with me because I
Yeah.
was like, when the wind moves the leaves on the tree, I don't question that was the wind.
Yeah.
When a tree is uprooted and the roots are exposed and damage has been done, I don't question that was the wind.
Hmm.
I want to be so confident of God's movement in my life that I don't question him any more than I question the wind. I want to be as confident as him as I am in the wind. Like good, bad, or ugly, he is involved. He is present.
Yeah.
He is a very involved father.
Yes, yes, he is. And as part of that, I do believe that he has placed something precious and powerful in every woman's heart. And so I like to ask, this is something that he's given you that you're passionate about sharing with other people and ministering to the weary women out there. What would you say to encourage someone to pursue the passion that God has placed in their heart?
I, you know, God continues to put weary women in front of me. And I think part of their weariness comes from because they believe that failure is stamped on their forehead.
Hmm.
I can't read my Bible. I'm not in the Word, whatever, just
Yeah.
failure. And I want women to realize that that's a lie. God has stamped beloved on your forehead. You are his beloved.
Hmm.
And the passions that are in your heart are God-given. Go for it. Do the little things, and that's going to lead to the bigger things. So just remember that you are beloved. You are his beloved.
Yes, I like that. That is beautiful. And Lynn, if somebody is interested in getting the book and more detail about the recipe and walking through Psalm 57 in the back, so some good practical tools, or they just want to connect with you about your ministry and that, what is the best way for them to contact and connect with you?
Well, you can go to our website, which is thriveleadership.com.
Okay.
They can find me on Facebook, just Lynn Jackson. The book, you can find it on Amazon. It's just if you just Google the recipe, Lynn Jackson, it should come up on Amazon.
Okay.
And but and I do workshops. If anybody would like a workshop, they could contact me. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's where this came from. I did workshops on this, and people were like, "Do you have anything in print?" And so that's how the recipe came about.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, Lynn, thank you for being obedient to write it down and share it with more people. And thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Well, thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.